There's been a lot of talk online lately about developing a personal canon. So today on the Life on Books podcast, we have done somewhat of that. We have picked out 5 books that we have read that have been influential to us in some way, and 5 kind of big books that we'd like to read at some point. So this isn't a 10 before the end or something like that. No. It's kind of just like, these have been on our radar for a long time. Eventually we will get to them. Welcome back to the Life on Books podcast. My name is Tony. With me as always is Andy, aka Metafictional Meathead. Andy, how are you?
I'm doing well, Tony. I'm excited to talk about this. I've long been a fan of the idea of a personal canon.
Yeah.
I think conversations that we've had in the past kind of discussing the idea of being well read.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot of what it comes down to, at least for me, is this kind of having this idea of books that are important to you as a reader, your life and your taste as a reader, and then just like who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And just being able to like talk about the importance of those books and how they've influenced you and so on and so forth. So
yeah, this was actually tough for me to put together because I didn't want to just repeat like my top 5 favorites,
right,
which we kind of talked about,
right.
And I also somewhat recently did a like 5 books that changed my life regular YouTube video,
Yeah.
Which you can go watch. But so I was like, okay, I had to find. I mean, obviously, I've read a lot of books. I've read a lot of books that have been significant in some way or another, but it was a little bit more challenging than.
Yeah, definitely. I know. Like I very easily. I'd already wanted to avoid doing this before you messaged me.
Yeah.
But it would have been very easy for me with like 5 books that you've read that have been influential.
Yeah.
For me to just bring over Gravity's Rainbow, Infinite Jest, J.R., 100 Years of Solitude.
Right.
Just books that I've talked about ad nauseum and just kind of say the same thing again. Which on one level I think shows just how important those books have been to me, but it doesn't really make for great listening.
Especially if you're a regular listener.
Right, right. Pretty much all of the books that I have today, at least ones that I've read, I have mentioned on the show before, but have not talked about as much as, you know.
Yeah.
It was hard, though, because, like you said, picking books that have been influential, that's kind of all we do.
Sure, yeah.
So, like,
we're not really talking about books that we read that were like, meh.
Right.
Other than our weekly reading update.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can't be like, hey, here's a book that changed my life, but I've never talked about it before. Like, that's just not...
It's not a thing.
Not really an option, so...
Yeah. Well, let's
it's a little bit of a challenge, but...
Yeah. Let's start with our weekly reading update. What have you been reading lately?
Nothing new for me.
Okay.
Shadow Ticket, Europe Central.
Okay.
So, still enjoying both of them, but I've been a little slower on the turnover with finishing books, starting books.
Yeah.
Which I'm totally fine with.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying what I'm reading. I mean, sometimes it's like a little deflating, just kind of being like, man, I used to balance 4 books at a time and just flying through it. And,
yeah.
But, I'm just doing other things now. And like I said, I'm still enjoying what I'm reading. So I'm not like, it'd be different if I was, obviously I'm enjoying Europe Central a lot, but it'd be different if I wasn't. And it's just like, okay, I gotta keep pushing through this so I can start something else now. Like, but it's a great read. So it's kind of just like, yeah, I'm still reading it. It's still good. So,
and it's a long book.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm also enjoying it. So obviously here it is, Europe Central. And there we go. I also started Poor People.
You're further than I am.
Yeah.
For sure.
About 2/3 of the way through. Started reading Poor People by William T. Vollmann, one of his nonfiction works. So I've just been pretty impressed with Europe Central. So I thought I would check out some of his other work. Also, I've been trying. I was like, I'll mix in some shorter reads along the way, and kind of in a similar boat to you. Like, I'm enjoying Europe Central so much. I picked up 3 different books yesterday. Read the first like 5 to 10 pages of each. And I was like, meh.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this right now.
I sort of had a similar problem, not in the sense that like I read a little bit of them and was just like, I don't care. But like I read, there's a handful of books that like, Buddy and I have been talking about reading, things like that, and I'll grab it. And especially making the kind of list for today of stuff I want to read. Mm-hmm. Just kind of reading like the first opening, paragraph or passage or what have you.
Yeah.
Just kind of being like, man, this is really good.
Yeah.
I should wait.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to get distracted or like,
you want to give it your full attention.
Yeah. I'm going to like half-ass 2 books. That's just not what I want to do. Yeah.
That happened with Season of Migration to the North, which I mentioned I started last week. I finished that. It's very short, but it's actually not a super easy read. And I probably was not giving it as much attention as I should have. But yeah, it was interesting. But Poor People so far is great. It's so vastly different from his fiction writing.
I'm sure.
In terms of Europe Central. What's kind of like thrown me through a little bit of a loop on this so far is that a lot of nonfiction is written in a way to kind of like convince you of a certain perspective. Mm-hmm. And I'm only 40 pages into this, but I'm not getting that impression at all. It feels very just like documentarian. Like,
right.
I just went and observed. This is what I saw.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to convince you that this is the answer or this is the situation. So,
have you ever heard of his book Imperial?
I don't think so.
So it's about this county on the Mexican-American border. Mm-hmm. I'm actually not sure what side of the border. But it's pretty much like you were just saying, kind of very documentary esque about this county and the lives of all these people, like, working and living on the border. It's about 1,400 pages.
Amazing.
I don't have a copy.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen, it's just massive.
Nice.
Which, I mean, you would expect from.
Did I tell you about did you see my post about the introduction in this?
I don't think so.
I posted this in our book club on the server, Discord server. And this came out shortly after Rising Up and Rising Down, his 7-volume book on...
Treatise on the Moral Calculus of Violence.
Yes. So the introduction, first sentence. Recently, I finished writing a longish book about violence.
Nice.
Longish.
Longish.
I was like, a little bit of humor there from Vollmann.
There are a lot of photos in here.
There are. The last maybe 100 pages, I think. 125 pages. I think he took the photos himself, right?
He did.
Yeah.
I'll have to bring you. It's like a 2-volume set. It's Shadows of Love, Shadows of Loneliness, I think.
And it's like a photo book.
It's like photos and artwork that he's done.
Cool.
They're both. They're like actual like photography books. They're that size. They're not just like.
Are they color or black? Yeah. Cool.
But they're some of them are just incredible.
Yeah, I looked up getting the full volume set of Rising Up and Rising Down because I have the abridged version, and there were 2 copies on eBay. One was $1,500, and the other one was a signed edition that was $2,200. So
that checks out.
Yeah, I mean, I can write books off as a business expense, but I don't know if that's really the most practical purchase. But anyway,
yeah.
So
I'm sure it'd be an incredible read, though.
Yeah, yeah. I think the PDF of it is floating around, so I might just do that. Yeah,
That's
or
cool.
I might just read the abridged version. I don't know. It's a lot.
I would get exhausted reading a 7-volume PDF.
Yeah, well, the first book in the volume set, in the box set, is definitions. And there's a couple pages dedicated to definitions in here, which are useful as you start reading the book.
Yeah.
However, I don't know if I want to... I mean, I don't suppose you're supposed to sit and just read through the definitions. I think it's
more there for reference.
It's a reference,
yeah.
But still, it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
To read this, you're going to have 2 books basically open at the same time.
I know. It is crazy. Just the depth of research and reference that he provides.
Yeah. And it is cool that he wanted to, and somewhat, I would say, it seems like he achieved writing a very complete
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
But like with something like The Dying Grass, I mean, that book is 1,400 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And 200-300 of those are glossaries, indices, maps,
Yeah.
reference type stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty cool with that book. Obviously, it's fiction, but a lot of the characters are historical, real people that existed. And he'll kind of, especially with some of the minor ones, he'll kind of be like, here's what I read about this person, and here's the historical document that I read and analyzed and whatever that led me to fleshing them out as a fictional character this way. And kind of not just being like, yep, this is how I decided that this person who came up in one document, I decided he was going to just, he'll be like this. But no, like, gives evidence as to why he thinks a certain character would behave a certain way.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, as far as Europe Central is concerned, obviously written in a very similar way to historical fiction. Most of the characters are based on real people. And not that I've looked up every single thing, but everything that I have looked up has been factually correct so far. So he's not taking too many liberties.
Incredibly thorough.
Yeah. So
just hearing some of the research that went into his upcoming book, A Table for Fortune.
Yeah.
Just wild.
And is that a novel or is that a nonfiction?
Novel.
Okay. All right.
It's, four books.
Nice.
Totaling somewhere in the 3,400 page range.
Love it.
So it's funny. I did pre-order the box set.
Yeah, same.
And I obviously reading, you're like, okay, like 3,400 pages, like that's a lot. But then you just kind of was like not really thinking about what that meant, like per book.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's about 800 something, 800 to 900 pages a book. That's cool.
Yeah.
But I am super excited for that. It sounds like it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely a controversial book for several reasons, but we'll save that for another day.
That'll be a fun one to discuss on the pod.
Do you want to start with the books that we have already read before we get into the books that we want to read?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think that'll lead some credence to why we want to read.
That makes sense.
The others.
All right, why don't you kick us off, bro?
Sure. All right. First off is, like I said, I've talked about all these before. I tried to not pick books that like I've gone over and over about how influential they were on me. But because this one had such an early kind of spark, I felt like I had to include it.
Yeah.
That would be East of Eden by John Steinbeck.
I was very tempted to put this on my list, but I thought it might be on yours, so I skipped it.
I think I've said this before. The first time I read this, I was 17. It was a summer reading assignment going into my senior year of high school, and to that point, I think I had read pretty much everything that was assigned to me in school, and read most of it. I wouldn't say like begrudgingly. There were a couple, but we talked about Lord of the Flies last week. There were a couple books where I was an angsty teen, like, why the f am I reading this?
Yeah.
But most of the time I just kind of kept my head down and read. But I remember reading East of Eden that summer and just being like, this is good.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny when I was that age and like had like summer reading assignments. A lot of the times what I would do, in my mind, kind of gaming the system, is I would read, I'd get into bed and then read for half an hour or whatever, so that I could enjoy my summer and do whatever I wanted during the day, but still get, the assignments done. And then just kind of be like, my mom was like, "Gotten your reading? You've been doing your reading?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm halfway through. I'm chipping away at it." And then just like with this book, I'd get into bed and then I just couldn't put it. 2 hours would go by and I'd just be reading and reading and reading. And then I was just sleep deprived because trying to game the system and I'd stay up all night reading. But I mean, incredible book.
Kind of the first book that, the first unofficial book club book we've ever done together.
Yes.
We read it with some folks at the gym.
Yeah.
We had no exact timeline. I don't think we ever even like got together.
No,
we just talked about it like when people would come in to work out.
Yeah, we barely discussed it.
Yeah.
Pretty much the first unofficial book of the Life on Books book club.
Life on Books didn't exist yet even.
No. I still had a brain tumor probably.
A little baby one.
Little baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible writing, obviously. Steinbeck. Really powerful narrative.
Yeah.
And I think kind of probably talked about this book specifically with this example, but I think one of those books where you can read it and just enjoy it and still get a lot out of it, or you can step back and really examine a lot of like the biblical allusions and really get into it. There's certainly a lot beneath the surface.
Yeah.
So
somebody just tagged me in a story on Instagram yesterday saying that they loved it and they thanked me for the recommendation, which is great. But it's also kind of funny. I'm like, really? Like, you heard about East of Eden from me? Like, it's a pretty well-known book.
Right.
Even if a lot of people maybe haven't read it, they know of it. So
right.
Thought that was kind of funny. But that's cool. That's kind of the whole point, just helping people find out about great books. So my first pick is a little bit different. So it's Love and Terror by William Herrick.
Of course.
A book that you will not be able to read. Yeah. Because it's impossible to get.
Dude, I sent my copy to a friend.
And you regret it?
I mean, a little bit.
Yeah.
Just in the sense that like it's such a cool book and I wish I still had it, but like I'm really happy to have been able to share it with someone.
Yeah. Marsha in the book club was able to get a hold of a copy and she just finished reading it. She loved it and sent it to somebody else in the club, I believe.
Yeah.
So if you're not familiar with William Herrick, he was an American author. He's since passed on. And this is from New Directions Publishing. It's a great publishing company. And one of the reasons why you can't get it is because they've been around forever.
Yeah.
And they've published hundreds and hundreds of books, maybe even thousands of books.
Yeah.
And obviously when you have a big, huge back catalog like that, you cannot continue. Yeah, this is number 538.
For reference, I have a New Directions book in my stack, and it is 1224.
There you go.
So
this is about political radicals and kind of the pitfalls of political radicalism, regardless of kind of what that radicalism is based on. And the reason why I picked this is for a couple reasons. This is probably one of the first New Directions books I read. And I was like, oh, I should like look more at this catalog of books because these guys are publishing some really cool stuff. It's also a book that I didn't love maybe the first 50 or so pages.
Yeah.
I think you might probably remember me saying that. And then it really like sucked me in.
No, I remember the same thing. Did we end up doing a full episode?
Maybe. We've done a lot of episodes at this point, so it's hard to remember sometimes.
I remember the same thing, kind of the first like 30, 50 pages, like thinking it leaned really heavily into that like campy B-movie direction.
Yes.
And then after that, like it still kind of maintained that, but everything else like picks up.
Yeah.
And it gets really good.
Yeah. So I'm usually fairly quick to DNF, so this book was kind of a nice reminder to like tough it out a little bit.
Right.
And it also just made me really appreciate just how many like fantastic authors wrote books over the history of whatever time period.
Yeah.
And just have been completely forgotten.
Yeah.
And kind of similar vein to like Hard Rain Falling by Don Carpenter. Great novel. Doesn't seem like he was that popular when it was published.
Right.
Never really had a super commercially successful career. His books are almost impossible to find now.
Yeah.
So I think it just kind of reminded me, or like it was another lesson to teach me that there are so many great hidden gems out there that you don't just have to stick to the big canon.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you like to do. But there's a lot of great reading out there that you can kind of be like a trailblazer or pioneer in your own way,
right?
Like rediscovering these and bringing them back into the conversation. So
yeah, and I think kind of going back to what I said earlier, that's why I love this idea of having your own personal canon.
Right.
I mean, if you go look at however many top 100, top 50, top whatever, or canonized lists, you're probably going to see East of Eden on most of them.
Yeah.
You're not going to see Love and Terror on any of them.
You're not going to see any William Herrick.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's an incredible book.
Yeah.
And if I've said it before, I think those more like canonized lists are a great place to kind of find your footing if you're just getting back into or really just starting to pursue serious reading. But after a while, I think it really behooves most readers to kind of follow their own path and try to find things that are more suited to their tastes and interests than just reading the entirety of the Western canon. I mean, unless that's what you're interested in, but
yeah,
at least personally speaking, I'm not,
Yeah, I think this is probably going to sound a little arrogant, I guess, but like all through my life, all of my hobbies have been kind of eccentric.
Yeah.
The less popular stuff that's like a little off the beaten path. That was true for the music I was into, and even the sports that I watch.
Right.
As far as like being American, right? Like,
right.
Formula One is pretty popular now, but I've been following Formula One since I was a teenager.
Right.
It wasn't popular 10 years ago. MotoGP has never been popular in the States, really. Maybe a little bit more in the 80s when we had some people competing that were Americans, but now the sport is completely dominated by mostly Italians and Spaniards, so it's huge in Europe.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just kind of I don't know what it is about me that likes that stuff. Maybe I'm just a little bit of a hipster. But also, I think like when I started making content, I like there's so much content that gets posted to the internet every day. And my kind of thought process is like, what is the point of just putting more crap online that's exactly like everything out there that already exists?
Right.
Like, even if it performed well, I just wouldn't like be that excited to make it because I'm just like,
right. It's just another reel about the stranger.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm kind of the same way. I mean, excuse me, obviously not making content or things like that, and I've sort of talked about this before with books that are typically on those like easily searchable lists, something like 1984 or Brave New World. Don Quixote is on a lot of the, especially like any sort of canonized list.
Yeah.
Or I was looking at maybe bringing Satanic verses for books that I want to read for my personal canon, and not that I'm disinterested in any of those, or and this is a little bit more particular to like 1984 Brave New World. Like, they've been a part of that cultural zeitgeist for so long that I kind of get the point of the book.
Yeah.
Just from it. We're kind of living out at least those two right now. So like they come up a lot.
Yeah.
But even something like Satanic Verses or Don Quixote, I would not be so arrogant as to say like I understand them or get the point without having really done anything more than kind of like flipping through the copies that I own. But, and this maybe sounds a little bit hipsterish too. I just don't have as much interest in reading things that like so many other people have read and have been so prominent.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a little bit hypocritical because some of my favorite books are Infinite Jest, JR, The Recognitions, The Tunnel, which our kind of online community are certainly well-known books.
Yeah.
But I think even if you picked most people off the street, whether they read or not, they've probably heard of Don Quixote. They've probably heard of the Satanic Verses, or at least Salman Rushdie.
Yeah.
I'm just a little bit more interested in like finding things that appeal to me. And I don't know how to say that without making it sound like those books don't appeal to me, but like, I guess a better way to put it would be like, I'm interested in things for what they are, not for how they're known and perceived.
Yeah.
You know?
I think you bring up a good point because, and this is going to sound hypocritical because kind of the whole point of a book-related content brand, podcast, reels, whatever, is kind of about recommendations. That's like the basis of it. However, when you go into a book like Love and Terror, which nobody's made any content about, there's no reviews, there's no companions, there's nothing. You literally are just like judging it based on the cover, the title, and whatever the publisher wrote on the description for the on the website. You're basically going into it with no real expectations, and you are able to fully form your truest like reaction to it and impression of it.
Yeah.
And I think Blood Meridian's kind of a good example where that's a great book. The writing the prose is incredible. The themes are interesting, at least.
Right.
But the hype and discussion around it changed my perception of it so much. You know what I mean?
Right,
and
definitely.
There's not a lot of easy ways to get around that sometimes, especially if you are involved in the book community and know a lot of people who have read it.
Right, totally.
I mean, so many people in the club rank McCarthy as their favorite author, their favorite book from him. So it does make it a little bit unfair when I kind of like have like a harsher critique because of that, because my expectations are so high. So when you are reading something that's like literally no one else has talked about, you get to just be like, I'm purely basing this on who I am and as a person and a reader.
Right. Totally.
So, but yeah. What do you have for your next book?
Up next, I have Libra by Don DeLillo.
Fantastic.
Certainly fits my vibe as a paranoid nut. I've talked about it before. It's all about an alleged plot by the CIA to essentially fake an assassination attempt on JFK.
This is a book of fiction, folks. It's a work of fiction.
That
we're not making any claims here.
Kind of sort of goes wrong. Turns into an actual assassination of JFK.
Nice.
And kind of, you know, all of the forces, sinister and not so much, at play. And that made Lee Harvey Oswald out to be a patsy. But really just an incredibly interesting book. I've talked about this before. Obviously, it focuses a lot on the life of Lee Harvey Oswald, which similar to what we were talking about with Vollmann. It is fictionalized, but there was a lot of research done, and it is relatively like things that happened to him. His life, I think he lived in, maybe it was New York, maybe not, I don't know, but with his marriage and then his time in the military, going to Japan and being in enlisted and being in Japan and kind of going back and forth. And I just really love this idea in it of how essentially Lee Harvey Oswald was just a regular guy trying to make it work. And I think a lot of people kind of can experience that now with the just bananas political landscape.
Yeah.
Both the specifics of this current administration and then just in general the system at large. Because I don't want to pin everything on this current administration as much as I could. But at the end of the day, like, we're all still like struggling to make our way in the world. I saw a meme the other day. It was kind of funny. It was something like, being an adult is like waking up, opening your phone, seeing the worst news you've ever seen, and then, oh, gotta go to the dentist.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to bring it back to the book, it really shows how, like, Lee Harvey Oswald was just a guy trying to find his place and make his way in the world, but was getting pulled in two different directions by incredibly powerful forces.
Yeah.
Definitely did have involvement in Cuban leftist communist movements and was kind of being pulled in one direction by those, because whether you agree with the methodology or not, they were kind of showing him, here's a path to a better life. And then on the other side, you had the CIA kind of doing the same thing, especially like through his armed forces career. Like, let us help you, kind of pulling you in this way. Here's this, again, path to a better life. Like, let us help you. Let us show you the way. Let us help you become something of yourself.
Yeah.
And just kind of that internal struggle of two incredibly strong and potentially nefarious sources just tugging at someone trying to make sense of the world and stretching them out and just wearing that person out. And then, of course, the larger historical and or conspiratorial side of things.
Yeah.
It's obviously something I've talked about a lot with my reverence for Pynchon and his work. Just this idea of kind of who controls the narrative, who controls history, who decides what's happening and how it's told.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, not to be super conspiratorial, because that's not my kind of default position, but I think a lot about World War II, and there were rumors coming out of Europe about what was happening in the camps, and people didn't believe it because it just seemed too far-fetched,
right,
for the human mind to believe, particularly because there was no like real anything in history that people had seen firsthand.
Right. I mean, it was a level of evil not seen before.
Right. And I think that's kind of like what I try to keep that in mind when I hear certain quote unquote conspiracy theories. It's like, do I not believe it just because it just seems like beyond what I could imagine?
Right.
And if that's the reason why I don't want to believe it, then that's not a very good reason, because history has shown us that people and governments and other organizations will do insane things. If you just think that like, oh, that can't be true because X, Y, and Z person or group would never do that, that's not a good reason to not believe the conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I've talked before about the importance, at least for me as a reader, and I've made the suggestion to other people, the value in searching out books that kind of pull back the curtain a little bit.
Yeah.
And obviously, again, this is a work of fiction.
Right.
But, and again, this is partially just because of me and my views on the world. And I already kind of had some doubts and preconceived notions about what really happened before I read this. But I don't think you can finish this book and then go, yeah, what they said is probably true.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I just think it's, like I said, it's so important to me as a reader and a person to kind of read those books that kind of make you question your worldview, whether it's about for me, it's certainly about like prominent historical events such as the JFK assassination. For someone else, it could be kind of going back to like our reading diversely conversation. It could be reading about books with LGBTQ characters and more queer stories or stories about racial struggle and strife. Like, I just think it's so important to read books that do challenge
conventional narratives,
or add perspective to your worldview.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, this Libra was just an obvious pick for this list.
I almost put it on my list of books I want to read, but I didn't. So my next book, kind of in a similar vein, In the Spirit of Crazy Horse by Peter Matthiesson. This book is influential to me for a few different reasons. One, kind of rekindled my love for really good like narrative nonfiction.
Yep.
It's obviously a very big book. So at the time I was not reading super long, challenging books. I mean, the language in it's not super challenging, but there's a lot of information. Any long book is a challenge just for the length of time it takes to read it. And also it really got me more interested in kind of like contemporary Native American issues, because I think the narrative in American education is very much like, we weren't so great to the Indians for the first 100 years, but after that was back then.
Right.
Now they have their own reservations and all is good. They're all getting rich from the casinos. And so it's like, that's not really what's happening.
Right. Yeah.
So for those that don't know, In the Spirit of Crazy Horse is largely about the Leonard Peltier case, which is where federal agents came onto Native American land. One of them was shot and killed, and Leonard Peltier ultimately went to prison for it, which is not a spoiler. I mean, it's like a known thing. His sentence was actually at the end of every presidential term for like the last 20 or so years, it's been like, are they going to pardon him? Are they going to pardon him? Biden actually kind of commuted his sentence. So he was released from prison. He's on house arrest now, which is like kind of dumb, but at least he's out.
Yeah.
But he's old.
I was going to say, he's got, what is he, like 80 something?
He's got to be in his late 80s, I think.
Well, he's going to make a run for it. So he's at a ripe young age to
Yeah. And from what I've heard,
race.
He's not in like great health either.
Yeah.
I mean, he's lived the last 40 years in prison. So
yeah. What are you talking about? Our prison system is known for taking care of
yeah, totally.
The inmates.
It's just a super interesting story in general to see kind of the continued history of the American government kind of making promises to these people and then finding ways to renege on it.
Absolutely.
And bending the rules when it kind of favors them to do so. Not that I'm condoning the shooting and killing of anybody, but it's not as black and white as like, oh, you shot this FBI agent, so you have to go to prison. Like, there's a lot more to it.
Right. Totally.
And they make a good case in the book that maybe Peltier wasn't the shooter. So very similar to Libra in that way. Peter Matthiesson himself wrote fiction and nonfiction, but he was also in the CIA. So very interesting guy.
Yeah.
I haven't read anything else from him, but I've heard like his book, The Snow Leopard, which is a nonfiction's great. He's known for the what's the trilogy that
Shadow Country.
Shadow Country. I've heard that's fantastic.
So have I.
So I almost put it on my list today as well as like books I want to read, but I didn't want to double up too much on
Right.
a single author. So
I in a similar vein, not so much with Matthiesson, there were so many books that I was like going through my list of like, oh, I want to read this. I want to read this.
Yeah.
I want to read this. And it was kind of weird, like trying to suss out the potential significance of something that I haven't read yet.
Yeah. I mean, theoretically, I want to read every unread book sitting on my shelf.
Right.
But is it worth a conversation about? That's a different story.
Right. That's a different episode of just like
sure.
books I want to read versus books I want to read that I think will have significance to my experience as a reader.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
what do you got next?
up next, I have, man, your stack is...
Well, I have the two books that I'm currently reading as well.
That's true. Up next, another author I've talked a great deal about. I have got The Passion According to G.H. by Clarice Lispector.
A woman so progressive of you.
I know.
You mega goofy lib.
Woke tard. Yeah, I mean, this is just an awesome book. I mean, I've talked a lot about Clarice Lispector and her writing and her kind of themes that, you know, transcends all of her work, kind of goes that connecting link that I've talked about with other authors. But this is just such a cool one. I mean, the narrative behind it is this woman who's a sculptress in Rio, and she goes into a bedroom in her house and she opens the door of a wardrobe and sees a cockroach. And as one does, she freaks out seeing the cockroach and she slams the door and crushes the cockroach, kills it. And when she opens the door, kind of the door swings back open, she sees this crushed cockroach and more or less the cockroach's innards kind of oozing out and pouring. Yeah, not really pretty imagery.
Yeah.
But upon seeing everything that was inside of this cockroach, kind of has this existential metaphysical crisis of what is inside me.
Yeah.
And yeah, just an incredibly interesting book in that sense of kind of just this person kind of having like I said, like an existential crisis.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure when I read this, I was in a bit of a transitory period in my own life. So kind of having that conversation with a book of like, who am I?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
That's really important. I'm trying to find a passage I can read. This will be a good one. Sure. I mean, I marked it up quite a bit, but inside me, a feeling of intense expectation had grown and a surprised resignation. Because in this state of alert expectation, I was seeing all my earlier expectations. I was seeing the awareness from which I'd also lived before, an awareness that never leaves me and that in the final analysis might be the thing that most attached to my life. Perhaps that awareness was my life itself.
Yeah, I love, it's not exactly the same concept, but, is there more?
You can talk. I'm seeing if there's more.
Yeah. I forget the philosopher that kind of came up with this concept, but like, morality has like an aesthetic quality.
Yeah.
Like we don't think twice about squishing a bug or something that's small or ugly looking. And it's just like, well, why? Why is that life
Right.
not as
valuable as mine?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. Or even like as valuable as like a cute cat or something. So
here's a longer one, so I'll end on this. Opening in me with the slowness of stone doors, opening in me was the wide life of silence, the same that was in the fixed sun, the same that was in the immobilized roach. And that could be the same as in me. If I had the courage to abandon my feelings, if I had the courage to abandon hope. Hope for what? For the first time, I was astonished to feel that I'd based an entire hope on becoming something that I was not. The hope, what other name could I give it? that for the first time I now was going to abandon out of courage and mortal curiosity. Had hope in my prior life been based upon a truth, with childlike surprise I was starting to doubt it. To find out what I really could hope for, would I first have to pass through my truth? To what extent had I invented a destiny now while subterraneously living from another?
Nice. Good old Lispector.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've only read Hour of the Star, but it was great. And I'm probably going to read Too Much of Life at some point.
Too Much of Life is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked about it before. I think I probably could have put it on this list.
Yeah.
But I went with this just because it's, contained thing.
Yeah.
Too Much of Life is so awesome.
Yeah. I do have Near to the Wild Heart as well, which I want to read.
Yeah.
Which was her debut, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. But I think this is probably her best book, at least out of what I've read.
Yeah.
Which is most of what she's written.
Yeah. All right. Next, I'm going to go with The 40 Days of Moose the Dog by Franz Werfel. I read this last year, and it is about the Armenian genocide, the fictionalized retelling of one of the kind of more significant events that happened during that, and the Musadag resistance. I chose this book because this probably, if I had to do like an updated like top 10 favorites, I think this is going to be in there.
Absolutely. I'm predicting your list, but it certainly seems like it would have a place there.
I really enjoyed reading it, and when I read it, I was like, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
Just the writing is beautiful, the story is interesting. There's a ton of narratives, and so it's got like that kind of winding and weaving narrative thing to it, which is super fun. But kind of reflecting on it, I was like, man, like I haven't really read anything since then that I think is like on the level of how much I really liked it. There's a couple things that are close or right there, but really just a fantastic book. And again, an event that like doesn't get as much fanfare or attention, the Armenian genocide, which happened during the World War I period. So just kind of like an interesting topic that you don't see a lot of people talking about, by an author you don't see a lot of people talking about. Although there's another booktuber who's a much bigger account than ours, I think. And he reviewed or said that one of Werfel's other books is his favorite book.
Interesting.
I forget what it is. And it sold out like everywhere. And now like you can't get a copy because this guy did a review of it. But I've heard this guy praises it, and a lot of other people that picked it up on his recommendation said it's great as well. So definitely interested to read more from him. But yeah, just a fantastic book. Kind of Tolstoy-esque in its storytelling. But yeah, like I said, I can't really think of too many books I've read since I read this one where I'm like, yeah, this is as good as The 40 Days of Moose the Dog. So,
yeah.
And we talked about it when I did more of a in-depth kind of discussion about it on one of our other episodes, but it was just completely random. We were at Gibson's in Concord, New Hampshire.
Right.
And saw it was translated.
Big book.
It's a big book.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is about the Armenian genocide, something I've read some nonfiction about. So I was like, yeah, I'll just take a swing on it. And then got lucky. And it was like we were talking about earlier. When you go into those books that no one's talking about, and then you just find one that absolutely blows your mind.
Absolutely.
It's like so much more fun, I think. So
yeah.
Yeah.
My next book in kind of a similar vein, similar in the, but a book that you hear a lot about that gets talked about quite a bit. And then, at least for you personally, ends up living up to the hype and maybe even in a sense surpassing it. For me, that would be The Savage Detectives by Roberto Bolaño.
Roberto Bologna.
I mean, it's been a little over a year since we read this for the book club. We did it, the tail end of 24?
I think so, yeah.
And I can only think of like one, maybe two books that I've read in that time that have, since finishing this, that have really affected me in the same vein, or that have at least captured my attention as much as this one has. Certainly have read a lot of great books since then, but I remember like reading this one, and then I'd be at work, kind of thinking about like, man, I can't wait to go home and read The Savage Detectives.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, I'm loving Europe Central, but there'll be sometimes I'm at work like, man, I can't wait to go home and read more of Europe Central. But sometimes I'm like, man, I just can't wait to go home and sit on the couch, and turn on the TV and zone out.
Yep.
And you know, maybe that has more to do with just the general season of life that I'm in,
Sure,
than when I was reading The Savage Detectives. But I've talked about it in multiple episodes now, but I always just come back to that line in The Savage Detectives where they're talking, and one character says, "Literature isn't innocent."
yeah,
I think, and it sort of seems, maybe silly is the wrong word, but a little surprising. You look around us, I mean, his 20 pounds of books on this table, and I'm picking out a single line that's what literature isn't in 3 words.
Yeah.
Maybe the whole sentence is 5 words.
Yeah.
That has stuck in my mind and kind of continues to affect me. But there was just something about this narrative and these characters whose lives become so centralized around literature, and particularly poetry, but the idea of capital L literature.
Yeah, the written word.
And just overly romanticizing it.
Yeah. What a time to be alive.
So
bring me back.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I think it ended up being an incredibly important book in terms of my formation as a reader, who I am as a person. I don't think it's gotten to the point where like I've kind of started to like doubt myself for making this such a big part of my life, but it definitely led to some kind of examination of things. I mean, I've joked about it before when talking about that particular line, that there's a lot of bad stuff happening in the world, and what you and I are doing right now is inherently good, I think.
Yeah.
But many other people could probably make the case that, well, this isn't bad. Could we be doing something more useful to the greater good of the world during with this time?
Yeah.
I mean, By Night in Chile is essentially what you and I are doing right now. Like, the government is being overthrown and people are in like a church basement talking about books.
Right.
So I think it just landed with me, man. I don't really know a good way to kind of like really like succinctly and poetically kind of describe it beyond that, other than it just stuck with me, and it I'm kind of doing what the book warns against right now by being overly romantic about something, about the written word. But I just think it was so interesting. And I know a lot of people in the book club kind of got turned off by the middle section, where it's just kind of this wandering, not sort of real narrative. And there was, we all kind of speculated about like who is speaking, who's doing these interviews, things like that. and my kind of interpretation of it was, it's not really like anyone. It's just kind of these snapshots of people like sitting around going, hey, you remember when?
Right.
You know,
yeah.
these like kind of reminiscing on the old days.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I do that about the gym sometimes, that these specific stories maybe don't have like the most significance in our lives now, but sometimes it's just kind of a means of connecting to people with across from you.
Yeah.
Of kind of talking about like, hey, remember this person that came in 5 years ago and was there for a month?
Yeah. Yeah.
And just kind of was, in the grand scheme of things, was like in and out, but also like left enough of a mark that we're talking about them 5, 6, 7 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
Um,
Did you like 2666 as much as The Savage Detectives?
I liked it a lot. I did not like it as much.
They're very different books, right?
They are. I still think 2666 was a phenomenal book. In some ways, I probably could have put it on this list, but I think, you know, just because of everything that I was just rambling on for the last 5 minutes or so, that this was the better choice for this list. So, but yeah, I mean, it's still a great novel. I think there's a part of me that's, it's funny. I've talked about this this kind of idea, like when I've talked about Gaddis in the past, that upon the first read, I enjoyed JR significantly more than the Recognitions. But the Recognitions is the book that I think about going back and rereading more often. And with Bolaño, I enjoyed The Savage Detectives much more upon that first read. But 2666 is the book that I think about like, maybe I should go back.
Yeah.
Maybe there are things that I missed. Maybe with more experience and knowledge, both life and literary, under my belt, like I would get more out of it.
Yeah.
I think part of it too was I'm sure you remember, and most of our listeners that have been listening long enough will remember, like reading The Savage Detectives kind of turned into a whole Bolaño kick for me.
Right.
And I wouldn't say that 2666 failed to live up to the hype, but I think there was probably a part of me that was like, oh, The Savage Detectives and 2666, those are the two great works.
Right.
Like, and I was affected like crazy by The Savage Detectives. So 2666 is going to just totally upend me. And it certainly did have a pretty good effect on me. I still think like maybe I set the bar too high, and it just didn't live up to this artificial, expectation that I set. But there are certainly things that I think about quite often with that book. One of my, there's two sort of passages that I think a lot about, and I could be wrong, but I think they're both within the same section and possibly the same kind of character talking. One of them is this character. He has I think it's geometry. It's a textbook. But he basically leaves it hanging off his clothesline out in the backyard of his house, and just leaves it out there. And it rains. It's Mexico, so the weather's crazy. It rains. It's windy. It's dry. It's hot. All of these natural conditions.
Everything but snow.
Right. Kind of more or less like destroy the book. And he talks about this idea of like, yeah, I'm letting nature strip it down to the essentials. If it wasn't if it's an important part of this book that's essential to understanding it, then the rain won't strip it away.
Nice.
Which you pretty easily get a chuckle out of, but like it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's another one where, again, I don't remember the character that's speaking. So if someone wants to chime in the comments with some of the context, that would be great. But he's kind of talking about with the great authors of the world. You have to be willing to read their lesser works.
Yeah.
Or the works where they tried something new. Maybe it didn't hit the mark, but they made an attempt. Think about Melville. I'm not in a rush to read some of the other novels and short stories that he's written. I would like to. But kind of this idea of like, how much are you limiting yourself if you only read Moby Dick?
Right.
How are you really getting the most out of this author if you only read the great work that succeeded and that made the legacy for this author?
Oh, it's like Krista said a couple weeks ago when we had her on. One of the best ways to get more out of a book is to read multiple books by the same authar.
Right.
Sometimes
absolutely.
It's easier to understand the ideas.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you go to read something, like maybe you go to read Billy Budd, and it's just not grabbing you immediately the same way that Moby Dick did. In a sense, like at least in this conversation in 2666, it's asking the question: is it kind of cowardly
Right.
to just go, this isn't as good,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to read it?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it is cowardly.
So
Cowardly. Definitely.
kind of goes against everything we've said before about DNFing books.
Read
but
what you want to read. Yeah.
but also like it is sort of lazy.
Well, this happened to me earlier this year, right? I'm a big Catch-22 fan by Joseph Heller. I read Something Happened, and I didn't like it.
Right.
But I read it.
Right. I think it's the same thing with me and David Foster Wallace. I loved Infinite Jest. I love that book. I didn't like The Broom of the System.
Yeah.
I want to read Infinite Jest at least one more time. I'm sure reading it one more time is going to lead me to wanting to read it a third time.
Yeah.
Don't ever want to read Broom of the System again.
Nice.
But you get more perspective of what that author wants to talk about.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
all right, that's enough for me.
My last book on this list, I only grabbed 4 apparently, is not this book in my hand because I don't have an actual copy of the book anymore because I gave it to Becca and she never read it or gave it back to me. That is Shogun by James Clavell. This is Whirlwind. And I refuse to buy the movie or show adaptation cover because I think it's terrible and they split it into 2 books. None of it made sense, whatever.
They split it into 2 books that are each the cost of buying the single edition.
Yeah. So yeah, I picked Shogun because that was one of the first books that I kind of got back into fiction by reading. You and I read it together around COVID time.
I had COVID.
Yeah.
Well, I read it.
And I was probably a little intimidated by it because of its length. And I wasn't reading a lot of fiction. I thought, oh, this is going to be hard. Not only did I really enjoy the book, but I was like, oh, this wasn't really that hard.
Right.
And it was cool. I mean, I think anytime you finish a 600 plus page book, there's a pretty big like sense of accomplishment you get from it.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And it's a book that I recommend a lot, a book I still think about, a book I'd probably like to reread at some point. I know a lot of people have some criticisms of it regarding some of the historical accuracy. But overall, I think it's a well-crafted story.
As do I.
And it's an engaging book with a lot of interesting narratives to it. So,
yeah.
I don't really have too much more to say about it other than you should read it. If you haven't, it's fun.
Did we do an episode? I know we did an episode about the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of talked about both.
Yeah.
in that
certainly if we were
episode.
talking about the show, the book came up.
Yeah. So you can go watch that. I thought the show was pretty good. There's some things I loved about it, some things I didn't love about it.
Yeah.
Supposedly they're making a second season, which I think is a little weird. I think that's going to be bad.
I do too.
I think, much like Game of Thrones, which I've not read the books. However, at some point the show got beyond
the source material.
and you could really tell.
Yeah.
It really fell off the rails in the last couple seasons. I don't think that the books are ever going to be finished, personally.
No.
But yeah, I'm a little concerned that something similar is going to happen with Shogun if they do end up doing a second season, particularly because James Clavell's dead.
Yeah.
And at least with Game of Thrones, you did have George R.R. Martin there to kind of oversee and help steer the ship. It's scary to think about what kind of disaster it may have been had he not been involved. But yeah. So Shogun, go read it.
Yeah.
What do you got next?
All right. My last pick for important books that I've read, something a little bit more modern this time, The Instructions by Adam Levin.
This thing is a brick.
Massive. This was 2010. Yeah, 2010. Just an awesome book. Very imaginative as far as the narrative goes. The scope of the story that Levin tells, but also very thoughtful and intelligent. Certainly very funny. I've joked before about how I kind of use the Jimmy V scale of 3 for ranking.
Yeah.
Something that can make you think, something that can make you laugh, and something that can move you emotionally, even more so if it moves you emotionally to tears. I don't remember like crying at all while I was reading this, but certainly did all of those things. I laughed, I thought, and I was moved emotionally.
Yeah.
So there's centers around, how old does it say? I think he's 10. Yeah. It's about a 10-year-old boy. And you get things about his relationship with his father, his relationship with his parents in general. His parents' relationship is kind of a focus. His relationship with friends and that kind of young age 10 romance of having a crush on another 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And kind of figuring out those emotions for the first time. Just so much good stuff in there.
Yeah.
Really, really incredible book. And pretty much everything else I had with me today, and that I probably could have picked out had I gone in different directions, would have been before the turn of the century. And I thought it was important to bring a book from the 21st century.
Yeah.
Which
I didn't do that.
Which is fine. I mean, I certainly have more modern taste than you do.
Yeah, definitely. I was like thinking maybe In the Spirit of Crazy Horse, but I think it was 97 it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so I was close.
Yeah, just a great book. And parts of it had to do with like the season of life that I was in while I was reading it. I talked I said this earlier about The Passion According to G.H. kind of being in a transitory period of my life when I read it. And I was in that same period when I read The Instructions. There's passages about like the idea of forgiveness.
Yeah.
That just because of things I had going on in my life, like really moved me. And I think it's a valuable book for me, who I am as a reader, who I am as a person. And I think it's certainly a well-known book in kind of our online book circle, but a book that I think more people should read.
Yeah, I know a few people in the club read it, and I think everyone really enjoyed it. So
yeah. And certainly, obviously, like you said, a beast of a book, but much more approachable than its size would let on.
Yeah, cool.
So
Nice.
definitely want to read more Levin. Definitely want to reread the instructions.
Nice. All right, let's get into books that we haven't read and we want to. This one just sitting on top here is not really part of this, but it just came from NYRB. This is Memoirs from Beyond the Grave, 1815 through 1850 by Francois René de Chateaubriand.
Jonathan just posted about that.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah. I'm assuming at least, I know he owns them. I'm assuming he's also read, there are 2 other volumes that preceded that.
Oh, okay. Well, I won't be reading this to start then. But when we had Nick from NYRB on the show, he talked about this.
Oh, okay.
And I remember he had positive things to say. Obviously, he works for NYRB. But so the first book I'm going to talk about, these are just kind of stacked in order by size, is Baron Venkheim's Homecoming by Laszlo Krasznahorkai, the recent Nobel Prize winner and recipient.
Yes.
I've had this book sitting on my shelf for a while. I actually will probably read the what are they called?
The Apocalypse Quartet.
The Apocalypse Quartet in order. But we talked about some of the other ones last week, so I figured I'd just talk about Baron Venkheim's Homecoming.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about this a little bit as well last week, but just the concept of it sounds really cool.
It's a phenomenal book.
Yeah, I've heard great things about it. I like big books, and I cannot lie. And this is one of them, a big book. And I, of course, have talked about this quite a bit, but reading one book from every country in the world, don't have any time frame on it, but just kind of making my way through.
Yeah, I think that's such a phenomenal book. Certainly when Krasznahorkai's name comes up, most people jump to Satan Tango or Melancholy of Resistance.
Yeah.
Which are both great books in their own right, but I think I honestly go back and forth between Satan Tango and Venkheim as my favorite from him.
Yeah. Just reading like the general synopsis of the book, this one kind of appeals to me the most out of those other ones.
Yeah, I think the idea of a certainly in that book, it's localized to a town or city, whatever you want to call it, one kind of locale that's really struggling, and the idea of someone that's going to come and save them, is very apropos to the world we live in now, where people with or someone with good ideas is for better or worse often looked at like as a savior.
Yeah.
Which isn't always the case.
Right.
So, and it's funny too.
Yeah.
In kind of a dark comic way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic book.
Cool. What's the first one on your list?
First on my list, not really in any particular order, is Under the Volcano by Malcolm Lowry.
Very polarizing book, from what I've heard.
I've heard like nothing but good things about it.
Oh, really?
You can see I have sort of attempted it. I did it. No, I shouldn't say sort of. I did attempt it in the past.
Oh.
It was when I was ambitious and thought I could just juggle multiple difficult books at once.
Yeah, I've heard it's a hard read.
It is very hard. I attempted to read it at the same time I read The Recognitions. Not my best move.
Yeah.
Certainly got wrapped up in The Recognitions and
Yeah.
kind of fell behind in this and ended up just putting it back on the shelf. But it's about a British consul living in Mexico and just kind of going down the descent of alcoholism.
Oh, nice. I think Lowry himself was an alcoholic, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
So, and the people that kind of more or less try to rescue him.
I mean, I've heard the book's great, but I've also heard people say that Lowry's kind of just like a spoiled, privileged hack that used his money to kind of have a career. And so
that's entirely possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was kind of like flipping through some of the stuff that I stick-eat, and I saw this one. The leaves of cacti attracted with their freshness, green trees shot by evening sunlight might have been weeping willows tossing in the gusty wind which had sprung up, A lake of yellow sunlight appeared in the distance below pretty hills like loaves. But there was something baleful now about the evening. Black clouds plunged up to the south. The sun poured molten glass on the fields. The volcanoes seemed terrifying in the wild sunset.
Not bad.
Like, just, really great writing throughout.
It's got my attention.
I know Gass was a huge fan of this.
Yeah.
Plenty of other authors that I really like
were
big fans of it. So,
cool.
And I've heard, you can see, like, I didn't make it super far, but I did sticky quite a bit.
Yeah.
When I did read. So,
nice.
Really, really interesting book. Or I've heard, you know, lots. And this particular edition has an afterword by our good pal, Bill Vollmann.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so on my list next is Underworld.
Nice.
By Don DeLillo. Obviously, we already talked about DeLillo a bit, but the reason I picked Underworld, a lot of people say it's his best book, and also it's been called the Great New York Novel, and I'm very kind of intrigued by this concept, the Great American Novel.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, I read Ask the Dust by John Fonte, which is considered the Great LA Novel.
Right.
So just somebody that's kind of wants to really go super deep on American literature, because I think America as an idea and how America has gone in practice is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
So I thought I would check this out. I've read White Noise. It's fantastic.
Yep.
So yeah.
I would put that or Libra as my pick for DeLillo's best.
Oh, cool.
I loved that book. The book was awesome.
I've never heard anyone say anything bad about Underworld. It's obviously very highly acclaimed, and it's kind of like, for me, one of the big books of the authors that we like to read and talk about that I really need to get to. So that's why I put it on my list today. So.
And it's certainly very approachable too.
Okay. Cool.
It certainly helped that I was still working at the gym at the time, so I had much more free time to read.
Yeah.
I read that in about a week.
Oh, wow. Okay. Maybe I'll bump it up my list, because I have heard some people say it's challenging, but at this point, I don't really think about that kind of stuff too much.
You certainly have to like pay attention.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of dialogue, which I don't know about you, but when I'm reading a book and there's a lot of dialogue, it tends to read quicker.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
And what's really interesting about Underworld, and I think DeLillo pulls off very well and certainly elevates the book, both in its quality and the themes and ideas it's discussing, is the narrative is told in reverse.
Oh, okay.
Which isn't really a spoiler. But goes kind of the early chapters, like it starts with this couple and then it goes back to here's where they were at this point in their lives before they really got together, before it really became serious. Oh, here's where they were before they met. That kind of, so you see these things of like how they're kind of struggling in their marriage, and then you jump back to like before they even met, and you kind of see the things that probably influenced the type of partner they eventually became.
Right. Yeah.
And it's certainly not exclusive to just how they are in their marriage, but is really interesting.
Yeah.
The way it's told.
Cool. All right. So what do you got next?
Up next, I have got a bit more of a classic, or maybe a little bit further back in time than I seem to be trending lately. 1945. I have got The Death of Virgil by Herman Brock, who actually is a German author. Started writing this book while he was in a concentration camp.
Oh, wow.
It is all about...
How do you do that?
It is all about Virgil, author of the Aeneid and Dante and all that. Basically kind of like reviewing his life on his deathbed.
Okay.
I've heard nothing but great things about this book. And it just kind of explores the relationship between art and life, art, politics, like all these things that, at least maybe when it comes to art and politics, I think most people listening would understand that or see that those two things are in fact intertwined.
Yeah.
but on the surface, always think about their connectivity.
Yeah.
So
it's so funny on Patreon when somebody cancels.
Yeah.
They have like an exit interview to like ask why.
Yeah.
And it's pretty useless because it doesn't tell you like who gave you the feedback. So there's really no like context to it.
Right.
But one of the options is they have like pre-sorted answers, and then you could do other and like put your own thing in there. Somebody commented like, oh, all the little offhand political comments were annoying. And it's just like, dude, this is a book club. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
there's not much more political than like books.
Right.
They've been a point of contention in politics
Yeah.
forever. So what did you expect? Did you get that at Monroe Street?
I don't remember where I got it. No.
As I feel like we were talking about this book on our way back from a bookstore one time, and I think you had just picked it up.
I must have gotten it there or Gray Matter. I feel like I got it at Gray Matter.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I definitely got it at Gray Matter now that I think about it.
Cool. The next book on my list is The Eighth Life by Nino Hartishvili. This is my pick to read a book from Georgia, which is a bit contentious because the book was written in German and Nino's been living in Germany. But Nino is originally from Georgia. And for me, the project...
All of these contentions in your made-up project that...
Right. The idea behind it for me is to read books written by people who can give me a perspective of life in their country, even if the book's not about life in their country.
Right.
And I think the fact that they moved away and are very critical of the Georgian government is part of that.
Right.
So
totally.
for me,
Totally.
it's that's a big appeal. This is obviously quite a big book, so it's one that I've been kind of putting off because of that reason, like just haven't been able to fit in such a long read. But we've both heard it's great. It's kind of an epic. It is more contemporary, which is something that I really need to read.
Pretty sure I have a copy.
Yeah, we should read it.
Another book to add.
Yeah, the English translation was 2019 by Frankfurter.
Sound it out.
I can barely read. The text is so small, and I need glasses.
Damn, you're getting old, man.
I know. And originally it was written in, I want to say 2010. Where is it? I can't even read it on this page.
Me and my young eyes will take a crack. 2014, it looks like.
Okay. So yeah, I think it's like a family saga epic.
It is, yeah.
Again, I kind of bought it on a whim at Gibson's bookstore. Actually, they had it used. I was like, oh, a thick book by a foreign sounding name.
Yeah.
Sign me up. So, yeah, obviously, because we haven't read these, we don't have too much to say about each of them, but go ahead on to your next one.
My next one, I had suggested this for one of our book clubs. I was pretty crushed when it lost. A handful of people went on to read it anyway and really enjoyed it. I've had it on my list for quite a while now. That is The Public Burning by Robert Coover, which is basically a fictionalized telling of the trial of the Rosenbergs, who are the last American citizens to be executed for treason.
Oh, wow.
And it is narrated by a caricature of Richard Nixon.
Fantastic.
So
sounds like a hoot.
Basically everything, I shouldn't say everything I look for, but checks
everything you want in a book.
Checks a lot of boxes, you know, political satire and, we'll call it political satire with just an absurd premise to it.
Yeah.
I've read some Coover before, certainly a funny author. And I enjoyed them enough.
Yeah.
They weren't my favorite reads, but they were still really solid. But I've had this on my list forever, so I think it'll fit nicely into the kind of styles I've carved out for myself.
Yeah, I was somewhat following along with the thread in our book club on Discord about that when people were reading it together, and it seemed like most everyone was enjoying it. So.
Yeah, I know Buddy loved it.
Yeah.
And it's got an introduction from Gas, so
can't go wrong there.
No, you cannot.
All right. The next book on my list is The Tale of Genji by Murasaki Shikibu. So this is a very old work of Japanese classic lit. This particular edition is translated by Royal Tyler. Or Royale, I don't know how that's pronounced. But this was written a bajillion years ago.
Yeah.
It's considered like kind of like a foundational work. I really like Asian literature in general. I've read a lot of more contemporary Asian literature, very much in the same time period as a lot of the other books that I read, kind of that post World War II through the end of the 20th century.
Yeah.
I don't know. I actually might not end up reading this translation. I've heard that this is good, but there's some problems with it, and some people have recommended some other ones. What's challenging about this is it basically had to be first translated from like ancient Japanese, and I don't know what the effectively what the differences are, to like modern Japanese, and then
translated to English.
Translated to English. But as you can see, it is a
big book,
massive book. I think it's over 2,000 pages. And I do know a couple people like Kate in the book club, who's extremely well read, said she's like tried it multiple times and hasn't been able to get through it.
Wow.
So I don't know when, but some point
Eventually,
I will read it. So
yeah. All right. Up next for me, I read part of this pre-brain tumor, and that kind of derailed everything.
Yep.
That would be the USA trilogy by John Dos Passos. Similar to what you were saying earlier, kind of a lesser acknowledged novel in this conversation of the great American novel. But I certainly am kind of fascinated by that idea of works of art that kind of capture American life in some way or another. So this is John Dos Passos wrote 3 books: The 42nd Parallel, 1919, and The Big Money, that together, become the USA trilogy. And I read The 42nd Parallel. I finished that one. Kind of just about characters kind of more or less struggling to make a life for themselves around the beginning of the 20th century, kind of leading up to World War I. 1919, which I want to say 100 pages into when I started to get real sick. Kind of picks up with some of the same characters from 42nd Parallel, or at least characters that were kind of offhand mentioned, and then they kind of rise to prominence. But kind of 1919, the start of kind of in the midst of World War I. And then The Big Money, post World War I, kind of leading up to the financial crash of 1929. But
no idea what that's like.
From what I have read, it is leftist as hell. So it seems to align pretty well with some of my political leanings. So
you mean actual leftist or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. A lot of talk about like socialism and labor unions and things like that.
Oh, the satanic stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm not sure how well of an endeavor it would be to read like from cover to cover. I think they were all published with a year or two in between. So maybe there's something where you read, and I'm not sure if I'll go back and reread the 42nd Parallel or just go back to the start of 1919. Haven't figured that out yet, but certainly similar to what I said about The Public Burning, it seems to fit well within the types of books that I'd like to read and kind of shape me.
Cool. The last book on my list is
baby.
The Royal Family by William T. Vollmann.
Very Vollmann-centric episode for you.
Yeah, well, I'm loving Europe Central.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying Poor People, although I'm not that far into it. When we had Max Lawton on, he actually recommended starting with this for Vollmann, which I did not do, obviously. But the concept of the book is pretty cool, and it's part of his Whores for Gloria trilogy there. Prostitution trilogy.
Yeah. It is the final book of that trilogy.
Yeah. But from what I've understood, you don't necessarily need to read them in order.
No, it's more like a thematic linkage than any sort of like narrative.
And obviously, like, you've been a fan of Vollmann for a long time. He's been on my radar for a while.
Yeah.
But now that I'm like getting more into his work and kind of just like taking a closer look at his career, I'm willing to say right now that he's probably one of the more important American authors of our generation.
I would back that up.
Just the things that he's chosen to write about, I think more than, I mean, obviously the quality of the writing from what I've read has been great, but just the topics I feel like are very broad, and you don't see that a lot. Like we talked about last week in the episode with Krista, where a lot of authors will just write kind of about one idea or theme throughout their whole career, which is fine. But Vollmann really seems to go out and, I mean, he has a trilogy of books about prostitution.
Right.
He's got a book about poor people. He's got books about climate change. He's got books about history, important moments of history, the Nez Perce War,
right,
World War II.
I think what is common between most of his work is that it focuses on the downtrodden and or disenfranchised, at the very least underrepresented people.
I would agree with that. Even Europe Central, where it's about a major conflict, World War II, arguably the biggest thing that's ever happened in human history, right? Like the characters he's chosen to talk about in that book are very much lesser known figures from that conflict.
Even there are early stretches of that book are about a love triangle that a composer has found himself in.
Right.
It's not something many people think about when they talk about World War II.
Right.
And I think that's what's interesting about his work, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying about Lee Harvey Oswald in Libra. Is it's people trying to carve out a life for themselves.
Yeah.
Well, all of these horrible things are happening around them.
Yeah.
Or maybe not horrible things, but at least like the difficulty of life.
Yeah.
And trying to find one's own place.
Yeah.
Some of his the first book that really like linked me to wanting to read more Vollmann, and certainly same thing, kind of been on my radar for a while. But the Rainbow Stories, I loved that book. There is at least one story, probably two in there, about white supremacist groups, basically skinheads, in San Francisco in the late 80s, early 90s, which are certainly not a group to be glorified or admired. But at the same time, Vollmann has this way of like kind of pulling back and showing the reader that like these are still people that have been kind of written off and ignored, and maybe based on the type of people they are and for the activities they involve themselves in, for good reason.
Yeah.
That they've been kind of underrepresented. And like I said, doesn't really like defend them. He's not taking the side of the Nazis, but it's certainly an interesting question of like, what would lead someone to become a skinhead and a white supremacist in 1990s San Francisco?
His writing seems kind of agendaless. It's more, like I said about poor people, it's
observant,
observational than it is, let me set out to write a book that's going to convince you of something.
Right.
Instead, it's like, let's just look at what's there and then you can decide for yourself.
Right. And it's very much like that. Like I said, he's not like defending these neo-Nazi groups or trying to convince the reader to become a neo-Nazi.
Right.
But how much of us really pay attention to, maybe depending on where you are in the world right now, they might be marching downtown and you can observe them without really wanting to.
Yeah.
But we still don't really give much consideration to those groups and those people. And so it's interesting to for him to kind of take that spin and just observe them and tell you about what he sees.
Yeah.
Certainly in like the Rainbow Stories, he spent time with those groups. And you do see that they are going through similar struggles that other people that have more forgivable political opinions are going through.
Yeah.
They do kind of live in poverty and these rundown dwellings, and they're struggling to put food on the table and pay their bills and things like that. And on the surface, it's easy to say, well, stop being a neo-Nazi and adjust your worldview and maybe things will be a little bit more successful for you.
Yeah.
But it is, like I said, it's interesting to kind of observe that, like, they're people.
Yeah. 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 I'm really impressed with his writing, and really, I could have put a number of books on the list today, but this is kind of a big one that's caught my eye. So,
yeah.
All right. What's your last book?
My last book is Terra Nostra by Carlos Fuentes.
Fantastic. I haven't read anything from him. He's been on my list for a while. I kind of thought about grabbing that actual book off my shelf and putting it on my list, but I thought that maybe it would also be on yours.
Yeah.
/ as much as I do want to read him, it's not really like as high up on the priority list as some of these others. So
yeah, but let me just read off the back. One of the great masterpieces of modern Latin American fiction, Terra Nostra is concerned with nothing less than the history of Spain and of South America, with the Indian gods and with Christianity, with the birth, the passion, and the death of civilizations. Fuentes skillfully blends a wide range of literary forms, stories within stories, Mexican and Spanish myth, and famous literary characters in this novel, which is both a historical epic and an apocalyptic vision of modern times.
Sounds bitchin'.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Like I said, with pretty much all of these books that I've talked about wanting to read, it fits into the type of reader that I want to be. So.
All right. I don't have anything else to say.
I don't either. That was a long episode.
Thanks.
We had 10 books each. I'm not surprised, but
okay. Join us next week for our discussion about
books, and leave a comment with some of the books that are in your personal canon.
Look at
that. Make sure to like and subscribe and sign up for the book club. And I will remind you, because Tony didn't slip in his shameless plug this episode.
I'll just record a different one and cut it in later.
Cut mine out.
No, we'll keep it. Okay. Do all the things he said. See ya.
Bye-bye.